Hi there, everyone. I'm Ani Anderson, the Director of Operations at the Somatic Coaching Academy. I'm joined by my partner in crime, Brian Traskos. Hi,
Hello.
Brian.
Hello.
Brian is our Director of Education, and today we are talking about part 2 of achieving mental well-being with core centering. So yesterday, Brian and I were talking in part 1 about achieving mental well-being with core centering, and we talked about a certain principle. We'll talk a little bit about, review that for just a few moments. But before we do, Brian, let's just talk a little bit about this idea. Well, first of all, the importance of mental well-being, I think, is so imperative in everyone's life. Everyone is dealing with some kind of mental well-being issue. I mean, stress, pandemic stuff, regardless of everything else that's going on in our lives. It's a global thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what strikes me is that our tolerance, let me put it that way, our tolerance for being really, really healthy has come down really, really low.
That is very true.
Right? Like we're like, well, at least I'm not dead today, sort of thing. It is kind of where we're at. And it's really, in some ways it's disheartening. In other ways, it's like that's kind of the reality of the world right now for people. But when our threshold comes down that low, we really forget our capacity as humans to be intensely well. And we start to really accept and tolerate marginal levels of energy, marginal levels of sanity, marginal levels of compassion, of caring, all sorts of things. And that's really what I'm concerned about, is that we're going to end up with an imprint of just like mediocrity, right?
It's almost like not even mediocrity.
Yeah, long past this survival experience we're having, assuming we survive this as humans, that will just be imprinted with mediocrity around health, and I think that's a real problem.
Yeah, I would agree with you, and I think that brings up the importance of, from a leadership standpoint, self-leadership, and also seeing ourselves as leaders, even if we are simply leading in our partnerships, in our families, in our communities. And when I say that, it kind of irks me that I'm even saying like that, because it's a really powerful thing for us to be able to lead, even in our friend groups and things like that. But so many people don't see themselves as leaders and don't consider themselves leaders, and yet we're leading each other every day, all the time. So self-leadership, being able to lead myself, and leadership in the capacity that we're always leading everyone that we're around. I think it's really important in relationship to what you're speaking about, because it matters so much right now for each of us, every single one of us. Doesn't matter what your job is. You could be the grocery store clerk, or the person who is at the pharmacy or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. All of us are around people. All of us are around each other. And we have a tremendous ability to impact and influence each other right now. So I really encourage people to see their leadership potential, each and every one of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this really does go back to, and I just want to say hi to Janice. Janice is here.
Hi, Janice.
Hey, Janice. We'll go back to the idea of this interdependent connectivity that we're all having, right? This idea of interdependent leadership, which we've been talking about for the last, I guess, day or so, actually from last week into now. That idea of connectivity, and that whether we realize it or not, we're impacting one another. And just think about, one of the things to think about is what we value as a society, and what we value as a society because it's what we praise each other for. And so often we praise people for working their butts off, right? I mean, oh man, you're working so hard. Good job. You're working so hard. Good job. You're putting in those 60-hour weeks and you're really getting it done. You go, how often do you say, oh, I'm so proud of you. Good job for taking care of yourself before other people. Good job. Good for you for taking care of yourself before you're burned out, Right? You have a lot of compassion for people and say, oh my God, well, you need it. Like, you're exhausted. You've spent it all. You've really destroyed your sense of health. So yes, good for you for taking care of yourself. Like, we praise people after, like way after the fact. We don't praise people for saying, like, good for you that you took care of yourself, like long before you got sick, but also good thing you take care of yourself in order to further enhance your own health, even though people around you seem to not have that figured out yet. Do you sort of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I noticed that you changed what you were saying. At first you were saying good job and you caught yourself, didn't you? Did you? Did you hear
No.
yourself? Okay, so I've been using this myself. Our kids play basketball and we're at basketball games and I hear each team shouting, "Good job, Kayla. Good job, Mackenzie," to the kids as they're playing basketball. And I've been musing how we really don't have very good language about saying like good for you. Good job is what we typically say. So right there in how we praise each other, usually we say good job as if everything has to be work. You know what I mean? Like it's really, it's
exactly.
really interesting. So yeah, there are so many awesome and interesting things for us to be able to be interested and curious in right now as all of our systems are struggling and we have the capacity right now. It's happening that there's systematic change that's happening in all capacities. So to really be curious and aware and watchful and that curiosity piece, just to say it again, is so important right now. And one of the ways that we can be curious and actually interested in how we're functioning so we can change these things. And again, lead each other in new directions and healthier directions with more vitality is to realize where we're coming from. Are we coming from a place of our core? We say at the Somatic Coaching Academy, the core expression or the core wound. So I was trying to think of like different ways to describe it. Like, are you really coming from your authenticity as you're expressing yourself, as you're moving through the world, as you're interacting with people? Are you really coming from a place of core clarity, of core purpose, of core openness? Or are you coming from a place of core woundedness, of defensiveness, and all of these things? Mm-hmm. Becoming aware of where we're coming from is so incredibly transformational in our lives. So that's one of the reasons why we're on purpose using the word core and talking about coming from a place of core centeredness, that place where I love the definition as I've seen it in a number of different places, but one specific place that I just love is the Bain research on leadership, as they talk about centeredness, and this idea of being centered is like all aspects of the mind are open and engaged at once. And boy, I love that that description of centeredness.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some principles of core centeredness that really do activate this mental well-being from a place of, hey, let's have exceptional levels of health and vitality. So yesterday we were talking about self-massage, Brian. So so let's just reflect on that. You want to begin?
Sure. Yeah. So I think about these as portals into exceptional wellness. Like, how do we actually go about doing that? How do we actually become centered as people? And a lot of people are like, well, just think about it. Just use positive thinking. Use these things, and those things are all good. But I think what we talked about yesterday is lots of times we can positive think a lot, or a lot of people try to positive think themselves out of feeling not so good in their bodies, and that doesn't always connect very well. So what are portals to do this? And I really feel like, because here we are at the Somatic Coaching Academy, that as humans, our body experiences are fundamental to our mental wellness. So a lot of people talk about not being mentally well, and you ask them, what does that mean? They're like, well, I'm tired. Well, is that something mental or is it something physical? It's both. It's not just mental, it's also a physical thing. We're never going to be separated from our physical experience as humans. So let's start in the physical body, because it's something very tangible. And so yesterday we talked about self-massage and all the great things that go along with that. When we do something to our bodies, increase blood flow, change our neuroendocrine profiles to create more happiness, to lower levels of distress, to lower levels of depression, to lessen anxiety, to increase connectedness, at least with ourselves, and then we can have a better capacity to connect with other people. But just the physical contact we get from our own bodies can create so many changes in our systems on all levels, on our physical levels, on our physical levels, on our mental, emotional levels, and certainly on our energetic levels as well.
Yeah, so I like what you said about portals, because it reminds me, if I'm in a room and I want to go to another room, I have to go through a door.
Yep.
You know? And so thinking about it like that for our own personal transformation, I think can be really helpful. So if somebody is stressed or anxious, or I'm trying to help somebody to see a different perspective, that would be like going from one room to another room. And are we just going to like teleportate to the other room and think about it? Or are we going to use a door? Like we're going to have to actually do something and go through a door. So these core centering principles, these tools, they're tools, are doorways from one state to another, from one room to another room. So self-massage is a way that not a lot of people think about or know how to do. And it's really can be very easy, especially when you use certain acupressure points and things like that, to go from one state to another state very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Right. So we were talking about self-massage yesterday. So today we're going to talk about movement, which is another principle that uses the body as a doorway. So that's kind of cool, because we have it, we've got our body with us all the time. Thank goodness.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just want to say, I want a shout out to one of my favorite bodies is Xavier's here from France too. So hey, joining us from France. Hey, Xavier. So good
hey
to
there.
see you.
Thanks for joining us.
So movement. So we can build upon self-massage with the idea of moving our bodies. And I think movement is something we really take for granted lots of times, because the ways that we're moving are how do I want to say this? Well, you said it actually, they're actually an expression of our core wounds rather than our core expressions. And we know that by looking at our bodies, looking at our posture. How do we chronically hold our bodies? Are our bodies chronically held in stiff positions, whether they're stiff contracted positions, whether they're stiff extended positions? How tight and restricted are our bodies? And that says a lot about our mental, emotional states, by the way, and also how we are energetically. Hey, and Ann Lynch is here too, one of our favorite rock stars. Awesome, cool. So that just shows up pretty immediately when you're looking at how people's bodies look. And we know that the body-mind interface is so critical. We know that the way we use our bodies impacts, again, our neuroendocrine profiles, which then affects our attitudes. So there are some really good studies out there that have been around for a little while that when you stand up in what's called the power pose, or some people call it the Wonder Woman pose, and you stand up nice and tall, it actually elevates your level of testosterone in your body. And when we sit down and shrink down low, it actually elevates the level of depressive chemicals in our body, or cortisols in our body. So we know that when there's more testosterone in the body, people tend to have more confidence. And that's actually true. When people have more testosterone in their body, they act with more confidence. They actually risk more money in gambling, and they actually show up better in job interviews. That people have more cortisol in their bodies. So it's funny. I say, testosterone app, cortisol app. If you want more testosterone, press the testosterone app. It's right there. And you get all the effects from it. You want more cortisone? There you go. Press the cortisone app, and there you go. You got it. It's just a matter of changing your body shape, and you're going to create a neuroendocrine effect, which then will create attitudinal changes.
Our teenagers would be giving you the big eyeballs. Oh my God, that one app, whatever. So I think it's funny that we said we're going to talk about movement, and you've been talking about posture. And I think it's funny because we have conversations with people and who might say, we're going to talk about movement, and they go, well, I exercise.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Which is good, which is really good.
Yep.
To exercise, get all the blood flow moving and that sort of thing. But my question is how, oh, and Xavier, thanks so much. I appreciate that you mentioned my haircut and
I
yeah,
think she's talking about my haircut.
oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
But, but how mindful is the movement? Like that would be my question, because exercise does good things for our bodies, yes, but mindfulness does something whole and different
So what
to
you're
our
saying
body
actually
on a
is that,
genetic level, by the way, on a genetic level.
like, we move. Like, let's right. Like, we move. I love it when I get to talk to a client about something, and because clients always expect we're going to tell them to do something in addition to what they're already doing. And
Mhm.
oftentimes with our work, I mean, sometimes we do that, but oftentimes with our work, we're going to help them enhance something they're already doing. Like, you move because you have a body. You move because you have a body. You're like that whew, let's just take the load off right there. And I love what you're saying about it's really mindfulness, because we can go, like, I'm noticing myself making gestures, right, and sitting differently and using my body as I'm moving as we're talking. And where is that coming from? It's coming from my subconscious mind. My subconscious mind is doing that. I'm not thinking, oh, I'm going to move my arms like this right now, except for I just did right there, because I was thinking, I was
And
consciously
that's just
thinking
interesting,
about it,
right?
right?
Because it can be both. It can be
Right.
both, but not at the same time.
Exactly. Exactly. So usually our subconscious is just running the show, and our bodies are moving as a function of our subconscious patterns. It's not that we're consciously aware of our movements every single second. What I think you're saying here is we can become mindful, and not in every single second, let's just be honest, but we can have pockets or moments where we become mindful of our movement, or we move in mindful ways.
Right.
And
That's the
that's
point.
what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about. And this actually weaves into a little bit of one of the other elements that we're going to talk about in a couple of days in terms of mindfulness. But I do want to just share that when we do things mindfully, when we're paying attention to ourselves in the present moment, right? When we're there's basically three parts to this, right? We're paying attention to what we're doing in the present moment, and we're paying attention without judgment and detaching from strong emotions and beliefs and thoughts around what we're experiencing. We're just really witnessing, we're being with it. This actually increases the lifespan of the wrapping around our genetic code, what's called our telomeres, right? So our telomeres they're like the zipper, the end of the zipper on your DNA. And the longer you have in the end of the zipper, the longer your genes last, the longer you live. So we know that things that increase your telomere length actually help you live longer. And mindfulness is actually one of the things that increases your telomere length. So when we move mindfully, this will actually add longevity to your life in an evidence-based, research-supported way. But we don't do that very often. So when we start to move mindfully, it's not only happening or not only having that effect on what movement does, which is to increase blood flow again. If we're moving in certain ways, it increases our joint lubrication, the synovial fluid in our joints. It increases muscle length and also muscle strength, can improve balance, right? So all the physical things that we love, movement helps. Movement also, again, releases endorphins and chemicals in our body to help shift our emotions. And we're also talking energetically, it actually changes the resonant frequency of our DNA and the telomere. So we have all these types of really important effects that happen when we move mindfully.
So I can hear some people saying, well, I go to yoga class. Is that what you're talking about? And other people say, well, I exercise. Is that what you're talking about? Are you talking about that I have to go for a walk an hour a day? Like, what do I have to do? Right? Like, what is there a length of time, or is it a class, or, because I think a lot of times, and I already know some of what you're going to say in response to what I'm asking. I think a lot of times we think that we have to, like, go to a class kind of thing, right? Which is interesting, because it takes time to get there. It takes time to prepare. And I think it's one of the ways that we actually stop ourselves from doing some of these things more regularly. But anyway.
Yeah, well, I would actually build on that, Ani, and say, lots of people say you're a soccer player, say you play intramural soccer, okay, and you also go to the gym 2 times a week to do strengthening. And so in that case, you might go to the gym 2 times a week to strengthen your muscles so that you can be a better soccer player. Mm-hmm. Right. So if I said, well, why do you go to the gym? And they're saying, I want to get stronger. Well, why do you want to get stronger? So I'm a better soccer player, sort of thing. So if you didn't want to become a better soccer player, you either wouldn't go to the gym or you go to the gym for a different reason to do something better in your life. So the going to the gym to get stronger, to lift weights, is a place you go to build a skill and to strengthen your body so that you perform better in life. And this is the way I kind of like going to a class. So classes are great. They're great. I think they're really great when you use them as a container to build a skill that you then transition into life. Because the cool thing about a class is you're creating a container, right? So it's a period of time you're there. You're there to learn that skill. You're there to practice that skill. You're there to deepen your relationship with that skill and other people who are learning that skill, so that then you can leave the class and go ahead and implement that thing into life. I think if you're not implementing that thing into life, then I think the class is really no more beneficial than taking a drug to solve that problem. And I'm not saying that to diminish the classes.
No,
but
absolutely.
Then, you're really not integrating a deeper change into your life.
Yeah, we were just having a personal conversation about this earlier that I'll bring up in a second. So we have a series of mindful movements that we incorporate in the core centering program. And it's a program that you can do within a class. It's a program that you can do in private sessions. It's a program that you can do as a leader or a manager or a human being or a parent, with other people that you serve. And I'll put a link to the core centering program so people can check it out, because it's a wonderful program to help yourself and to teach. It's a practitioner program to teach others so that they can become centered as well. So, one of the things you were saying was reminding me of this conversation we were having earlier. There are so many different modalities or things that people do for development. And I was scrolling through Instagram today and I noticed that a certain modality was showing up in my feed, and it was telling you about it. And I was saying, the thing is, I think a lot of people go and there's this hot modality of the year or the month or the week or the day or whatever. And then there's another one, and then there's another one. There's all these different hot modalities. And you were saying, yeah, but, in Chinese medicine, they've been doing these things for generations and generations. And the thing is, I think what people are really looking for is a deep sense of inner peace and inner cultivation. But you don't get that just from doing the thing once a week or, one time or, whatever the hot modality is, giving it a shot and then not doing it. You get that deep sense of inner peace when you cultivate your energy. Like, that's where the result that people, I think, are really deeply looking for comes from. It comes from cultivation.
Oh, yeah, totally. And this is one of the things I'm most proud about when it comes to the core centering program, is that not only transferring knowledge to people to help others find that core centeredness, to change their own physiology, to alter their own autonomic state, but to then also give them additional tools to transition it into their lives. Right? In a really profound way that is in alignment with the way that traditional Chinese medicine philosophy and practitioners have been doing this for centuries. Right? We've got a time-tested approach, and now research is coming along and validating why that approach is so useful and why it's so effective. And that's something that we really prescribe to, or subscribe to, might I say, that the idea is to really help people to functionally work this stuff into their life. And that's something that we're really proud about.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to put the link to the core centering practitioner program if anybody wants to check that out and see what it's all about. It's in the comments. And, I want to highlight this again, Brian, because I think it's really important. Whether you exercise or do yoga or whatever it is that's amazing that you do to take care of yourself, and let's go do more of those things and talk about those things and encourage each other to do those things. I think they're wonderful. They're all wonderful. And you know, most of them are trying to help us to get a result in our lives, not just in those specific moments.
Mm-hmm.
So, right. So let's look at ways like the core centering program and other things that we do at SCA to help people to take those things and really make it about your life, not just these little moments. Like, let's make those little moments even bigger so that it's about our lives. And there's so many ways to do that when you recognize that you have a power tool to do that in any moment. It's your body. It's here all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thanks for such a rich conversation about movement, Brian. We talked about self-massage yesterday, and we have another principle to share with you tomorrow. So if you're here live with us or you're watching the recording, check out tomorrow. We're going to be talking about the third principle in achieving mental wellness, the core centering principles. So thank you for joining us today. Thanks, Brian.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks,
and we'll
Ani.
see you next time.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.